A private member's bill requiring judges to consider domestic violence when issuing decisions passed the Senate this week. Bill C-233 is known as Keira's Law. It was named after Keira Kagan, a 4-year-old girl who was found dead with her father at the bottom of a cliff outside of Toronto in 2020. Keira's mother, Jennifer, had previously gone to court to seek protection for her daughter from her ex-husband's abusive behavior, but she says the court ignored her pleas. Supporters of Keira's Law are hopeful it will change how judges understand the connection between intimate partner violence and its effects on children.
Keira was going to change the world, and we're here today because she has changed the world. And she is starting conversations not only with our bill federally, but across the country in provinces.
I'm joined now by Jennifer Kagan Viator, Keira's mother, and Philip Viator, Keira's stepfather. Thank you both for joining me.
Thank you.
Jennifer, you spent a very long time advocating for this bill. How does it feel now that it's finally passed?
You're right. I mean, this is a culmination of a lot of effort and advocacy, and we're really glad to see this passed. I mean, this was incredible achievement, and we're very grateful to the work of all the MPs and senators involved, and just glad to see this pass and start going into effect and saving lives here in Canada.
Why was it so important for you that this law get done? I mean, what will it mean for people going through the court process?
Absolutely. So, we lost our daughter Keira in a murder-suicide after I left a situation of domestic violence. Keira was failed by the court system and Child Protective Services. And had the judge on her case had education and training in domestic violence, it would have made considerable difference for Keira. So we hope that this piece of legislation will save lives of other children, and with the electronic monitoring piece, will save lives of women in this country and victims of violence as well.
So Philip, you also work as a family lawyer, as I understand it. I mean, what's your sense of how this would change the dynamic in court once this law is enforced?
I think even prior to it being enforced, just the very nature of the discourse was such that it's slowly bringing about a much needed culture shift and understanding in the issues of domestic violence and coercive control, and how it impacts both in a separation process and parenting of a child or children.
So Philip, just to stay with you, what sort of training and education or changes do you hope to see in what judges know, in what they understand, and in how they conduct these hearings in their courtrooms?
Yeah, so first, I think it's important to know that, obviously judges come from various different backgrounds. Some are family law lawyers, some are labor lawyers, some are criminal lawyers, et cetera. And even within the family law sphere, I mean, we have varying degrees of different training. Some people take courses on domestic violence and some never deal with it in their practice. So I'm hoping that the judges will start to at least learn more about what domestic violence and coercive control look like in the modern era, and stray away from just thinking it's just black eyes and bruises, because now it's much more sophisticated. And if they can understand and appreciate how it looks like, they'll know hopefully the red flags to look for, the risk factors to look for, and they'll be able to hopefully fashion a schedule or orders that will protect victims and children.
So Jennifer, when you look at your experience in the court system and what you went through, how might this framework that will be implemented with the passing of this law, how might it have changed your experience and helped your experience in dealing with the legal system?
Absolutely. So, had the judge on our case received this education, it would have made immense difference for Keira. Keira's father should not have had unsupervised access to Keira, and a risk assessment for lethality needed to have been done in the court. In our case, we had over 22 risk factors for domestic homicide. Cases with 7 or more risk factors for lethality are deemed to be predictable and preventable domestic homicides, according to the Death Review Committee here in Ontario. So this would have impacted Keira in the sense that she would not have been placed into unsafe hands. And moreover, I would have been permitted to talk about the domestic violence, whereas in my case, when I tried to testify to the domestic violence and coercive control I had experienced, I was cut off and told that it's not relevant to parenting and it's going to be ignored. And that's just not true, right?
Were there ever any consequences for the judge and for the people who handled your case, given the tragic outcome that resulted?
In terms of the judge, he retired actually 2 months after Keira was killed, and I was not even permitted to bring about a Canadian Judicial Council complaint against him, given that he had retired and they do not investigate the practice of retired judges.
I'm looking at the story about your successful campaign to get this law passed on our webpage, and I see a picture of Keira, and I guess it must be from Halloween, because she's got a basket full of candy there, and there's another little child in a dinosaur suit next to her, and her T-shirt says, "I can change the world." What would you like people to know about Keira?
Absolutely. Keira was a very bright and spunky child who wanted to do great things in her life. You know, she wanted to help people, and she would have had she been given the opportunity. Keira's favorite T-shirt was a hand-me-down from one of her elder cousins, and it was this bright purple T-shirt. And I mean, purple coincidentally happens to be the color of domestic violence awareness. But that aside, it was a purple T-shirt that read, "I can change the world." And, you know, without prompting, Keira would put this shirt on many mornings, to the point that I even had to say, "Keira, you know, we have to change it up here a little bit with your wardrobe." So that was her favorite T-shirt. She loved it, and she wanted to change the world. So through Keira's Law, you know, in a small way, she's doing that. And, you know, it's a legacy for her now as a symbol of protection, you know, and, you know, a legacy for her within Canada.
Philip, what does it mean for you to have this law in her name?
You know, for me, it's important because Keira was a very memorable child. You know, what we say is like, she's the best, and now she's enshrined throughout all of history in Canada as a beacon of protection for children and victims. And so, you know, I think it was said by one of the MPs, I think it was MP Demoff, you know, 100 years from now, long after all of us are gone, Keira will still be remembered and enshrined in the law for all time. So it's a legacy for her, and I'm happy that Canada was able to give it to her.
Well, Jennifer and Philip, thank you for your time, and congratulations on getting this done. And thank you for being so generous with your time and sharing the story. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.